What if there was a place on Earth so dangerous, so isolated, and so mysterious that even governments warn people to stay away from it? A place where helicopters rarely land, where ships avoid the shoreline, and where outsiders who get too close can face deadly consequences. It sounds like something from a movie, but this place is real, and it's located in the middle of the Indian Ocean. On most maps, it appears as nothing more than a small green island surrounded by blue water. At first glance, it looks beautiful. Tropical forests, white sandy beaches, crystal clear water, the kind of place people dream about visiting. But this island hides a secret unlike any other place on Earth, because the people who live there want absolutely nothing to do with the modern world. No internet, no electricity, no phones, no cities, no roads, no airports. In fact, they have rejected almost every contact with the outside world for thousands of years. This is North Sentinel Island, and many people believe it may be the most isolated place left on our planet. The island is part of the Andaman Islands, a group of islands belonging to India. From above, it doesn't look particularly special. It's only about 60 square kilometers in size. Yet despite its small size, it remains one of the biggest mysteries on Earth. No one knows exactly how many people live there. Some estimates suggest a few dozen, others suggest several hundred. The truth is, nobody really knows. And that's because almost nobody has ever been allowed to get close enough to find out. The people who live here are known as the Sentinelese. Anthropologists believe they may be descendants of some of the earliest humans who migrated out of Africa tens of thousands of years ago. Think about that for a moment. While civilizations rose and fell, while empires conquered continents, while humans built skyscrapers, airplanes, and computers, the Sentinelese continued living much the same way their ancestors did thousands of years ago. They hunt, they fish, they gather food from the island, and they fiercely protect their way of life. For decades, governments, researchers, and explorers have attempted to learn more about them. Most of those attempts ended the same way. With warning arrows flying through the air, the Sentinelese have made their message very clear: stay away. One of the most famous encounters happened in 1974. A National Geographic film crew attempted to approach the island to document the tribe. The crew brought gifts, coconuts, cooking pots, various items they hoped would be accepted as friendly offerings. Instead, they were met with hostility. As cameras rolled, arrows were fired toward the visitors. One arrow reportedly struck a member of the film crew. The message could not have been clearer. The island did not welcome strangers. Years later, Indian authorities made several additional attempts to establish contact. Sometimes they left gifts on the beach. Sometimes they approached in boats. Each time, the outcome was unpredictable. Occasionally, the Sentinelese appeared curious. Other times, they appeared angry. No one could ever know for sure, because nobody speaks their language. In fact, their language remains one of the least understood languages on Earth. Imagine trying to communicate with people whose words, culture, beliefs, and history are completely unknown. It would be like discovering a lost chapter of human history. And yet, despite decades of effort, the mystery remains unsolved. But perhaps the most shocking story happened much more recently. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chau made a decision that would attract international attention. Despite repeated warnings, despite strict laws, despite knowing the risks, he decided to visit North Sentinel Island. His goal was simple. He wanted to make contact with the tribe. Friends and family reportedly warned him. Authorities had warned people for years. The island was protected. Approaching it was illegal, but he went anyway. At first, things seemed uncertain. According to notes he left behind, some members of the tribe approached him. Others appeared suspicious. Then the situation changed. Witnesses later reported that the Sentinelese attacked. John Allen Chau was killed on the beach. The incident made headlines around the world. And once again, it reminded everyone of a simple fact. North Sentinel Island is different, very different. But here's the question. Why are the Sentinelese so determined to remain isolated? What are they protecting? And could there be another reason they reject all outside contact? For many people, North Sentinel Island seems like a mystery frozen in time. But one event raised even more questions about the people living there. In 2004, one of the most devastating natural disasters in modern history struck the Indian Ocean. A massive earthquake beneath the ocean triggered a deadly tsunami. The waves traveled across entire countries. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. Entire villages disappeared. Coastal communities were destroyed. The disaster was so large that it could be seen from space. As rescue operations began, governments started checking remote islands throughout the region. And one question immediately came to mind. What happened to the Sentinelese? The island was directly in the path of the tsunami. Many experts feared the worst. After all, these people had no warning systems, no satellites, no news broadcasts, and no emergency alerts. Nothing. Surely a disaster of that scale would have devastated such an isolated community. Days later, an Indian government helicopter flew over North Sentinel Island to investigate. What they saw surprised everyone. As the helicopter approached, a Sentinelese tribesman emerged from the trees. He looked up, raised his bow, and fired an arrow directly at the aircraft. The image became famous, not because it showed aggression, but because it proved something remarkable. The tribe had survived. Against all odds, they were still there. But how? Some researchers believe the Sentinelese may possess an incredible understanding of their environment. Knowledge passed down through countless generations. Long before modern science existed, long before weather forecasts, long before satellites, they may have learned to recognize subtle signs in nature that most people would never notice. Changes in animal behavior, movements of the sea, unusual sounds, tiny clues hidden in the environment. No one knows for certain, but the fact remains. They survived one of the deadliest natural disasters in human history, and somehow they did it without any modern technology. That story alone transformed North Sentinel Island from a simple curiosity into one of the world's greatest mysteries. But there is another reason the outside world stays away, and it has nothing to do with arrows. You see, isolation works both ways. Most people assume outsiders are in danger when approaching the island, and that's true. But the Sentinelese face an even greater risk. Us. Over thousands of years, the tribe has remained largely separated from the rest of humanity. Because of that isolation, they have not developed immunity to many diseases that are common throughout the world today. Something as ordinary as the flu, a cold, or a virus that most of us would recover from in a few days could potentially be devastating for an isolated population. History provides many examples of what happens when isolated groups suddenly encounter the outside world. Diseases often spread rapidly. Entire communities can suffer catastrophic losses. For this reason, many experts now believe the best way to protect the Sentinelese is simple. Leave them alone. In fact, the Indian government has established strict exclusion zones around the island. Approaching North Sentinel Island is illegal. Boats are required to keep their distance. Aircraft avoid flying too low. And authorities actively discourage anyone from attempting contact. This creates a fascinating question. In a world where almost every corner of the planet has been mapped, photographed, and connected to the internet, should some places remain untouched? Should some mysteries stay mysteries? For the Sentinelese, the answer appears to be yes. And for now, the rest of the world has chosen to respect that decision. Yet despite all the rules, warnings, and restrictions, the island continues to fascinate people. Because human beings are naturally curious. We want answers. We want to know what lies beyond the trees. We want to understand how they live, what they believe, what stories they tell, and what their world looks like through their eyes. But perhaps that's exactly why North Sentinel Island remains so captivating. It's one of the last places on Earth that refuses to reveal its secrets. Today, we live in a world where almost nothing remains hidden. Satellites orbit above us every single day. Google Maps can show us streets on the other side of the planet. Drones can fly over mountains, deserts, and forests. And with a few clicks, we can access more information than entire civilizations had throughout history. Yet somehow, North Sentinel Island remains different. A tiny island in the Indian Ocean, a place that continues to resist the modern world. No social media, no news, no technology, no connection to the outside world. And perhaps that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. Because in a time when everything seems connected, the Sentinelese remind us that some people have chosen a completely different path, a path that has remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. The truth is, we may never know exactly how they live. We may never understand their language. We may never hear their stories. And we may never learn what they truly think about the world beyond their shores. But maybe that's okay. Maybe not every mystery needs to be solved. Maybe not every place needs to become a tourist destination. And maybe the greatest respect we can show is simply allowing them to live the way they always have. For now, North Sentinel Island remains one of the last great mysteries on Earth, a place hidden in plain sight, a place surrounded by questions, and a place that refuses to reveal its secrets. But here's something worth thinking about. If you had the chance to visit North Sentinel Island tomorrow, knowing everything you've heard in this video, would you go, or do you believe some places should remain untouched forever? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy hidden mysteries, forgotten places, and stories that most people have never heard, don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Theory, because sometimes the most fascinating mysteries aren't hidden underground. They're hiding in plain sight,